Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. It keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concept Music Podcast brought to you by Golden State Media Concepts Network. I am your host, Liliana Holmes. I go by Lily with an I-E, not a Y. I cannot stand the Y, so don't spell it that way. I do thank you guys for tuning in. It means a lot. I know in the era of COVID-19, the world is a little messy, and hopefully I can brighten your day with talking about everything you need to know about music. Today, we're going to start out by talking about the Prince of Pop himself, Justin Bieber, and his new album and everything that has to offer. After that, we're going to get into Machine Gun Kelly and his newest album and how he took on a unique route of producing music with a musical the past few months, something I have not seen an artist do in a while, and I thought was a nice change of pace. And if you guys stick around for the final segment, we're going to talk about who that blonde girl really is on Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. Now, I'm sure you guys know how popular Justin Bieber is. He is releasing his 6th studio album March 19th, and the name of it is Justice. Justin Bieber took to social media when he announced the album on February 25th to say that the purpose of the album and the name behind it is to let people know in a time of need that he is trying to promote some justice, because there is so much injustice going on in the world, and I'm sure everyone knows that. He says this album is a way to comfort people and help them not feel so alone. He's aware that he cannot solve all the injustice, but this is his way to contributing to it. The newest and most official single for the album is called Hold On, and it came out on March 5th. It is currently 18 on the iTunes chart, and it actually reached number 1 on the Amazon US for bestsellers. Justice is actually number 1 for pre-orders in 22 countries, including the US. I think that is absolutely insane that in 22 countries, the pre-order for an album, the album has not even came out yet and still isn't out for another week and a half, that it's reached number 1 in 22 countries. That shows the power that Justin Bieber holds over almost the entire world. Over the past few months, Justin Bieber has released 5 different singles, Hold On being the official one for the new album. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to rank for you guys from 1 to 5, 1 being my favorite, 5 being my least favorite, the singles that have came out, and how I feel about each of them and why I've ranked them where they are. So we're going to start with my least favorite, which is actually Monster by Shawn Mendes. I'm not a fan. I like the song, but I'm not a fan of the tempo of it and the beat. I think the song tells a great story, and in a lot of Justin's new songs lately, and in a lot of his articles, he is owning up to all the mistakes he made in the past as a kid. And he's doing a lot of that with his songs lately by telling stories. And in Monster, he tells a story about how when he was 15, he had the world on his shoulders, and he was expected to not make any mistakes because of the position he was in. And something he says in the song that I think is a very, very valuable line is unforgiveness keeps them in control. So that is his way of saying that he forgives everyone for all of the bad things they said about him in the past, including fans, media, and people who aren't even his fans that said horrible things about him. I think that shows a lot of growth out of him as an artist. He got into the industry when he was only 12 years old, and now he's 27. For him to own up to all of these mistakes shows how he's matured as a person. So I think that part of the song is a great way of telling a story. And I am personally a huge fan of the components of songs that tell stories. I think it is an absolute great way to keep people entertained and keep people on their feet. Number 4 for my list of songs that I have liked, the singles that have been released, is Lonely with Benny Blanco. I think this song tells a phenomenal story about how lonely Justin really felt when he first started his career. And even though he had everything, it actually meant nothing, which I think is a big misconception in media. People think that if someone has money, then they have the entire world, and what's not to be happy about. I'm sure you have all heard the phrase, money does not buy happiness, which is 100% true. And a lot of people in Hollywood have confirmed that. Money does not buy happiness. Money does make your life easier, but it doesn't make everything happy and sunflowers. I think the song tells a lot, again, just like Monster, about how he's matured as a person and he's coming out and saying his struggles. And I think that is absolutely amazing. The reason I'm not a huge fan of the song is because I feel like the song builds up to something, almost like a climax, and there is no climax. I feel like there's a lot of rising action, but there's no climax, and then it just falls to resolution. And I'm a big person. I really like to hear a climax in a song. So that's kind of why I have it at 4, being second to my least favorite out of everything. Number 3, we have Hold On, which is his latest and official single for the album. I think it is a good song, but I'm not a huge fan of the repetitiveness. The chorus just is repetitive, and so I don't really like that there's not much diversity in the lyrics. I think it has a good beat. I think it has a good tempo. I really enjoyed the music video. And I actually haven't heard a song is more in the pop category from him like this in a while, in my opinion, besides Yummy, which was his first official single for his last album that came out last year. So I was happy to hear the pop beats. It still is something I'm going to listen to and play in the car, but I think there could have been a lot more diversity when it came to the lyrics. At number 2, we have Holy featuring Chance the Rapper. I really enjoy this song, and I'm not even really a religious person. I would qualify myself as more spiritual. But even though the song is about religious concepts, I still really enjoy it. I think it has a good beat, a good tempo. I really enjoyed the music video, and it just really captures, I think, your heart when you're listening to it about being in love. And I think that is something that, everyone's tired of hearing love songs nowadays, but at the end, we can all agree love is what makes the world go round. So I think it's an awesome song. And I also really love that in the music video, Justin actually plays this poor man where he loses his job and he has a hard time supporting his wife, and they actually get kicked out of their apartment. And one of the parts of the music video is just a stranger on the side of the road drove by and saw them walking and offered them to come home with them, give them a hot meal and warm place to stay. And I think that says a lot about how society should be acting nowadays. Personally, I think it gives a good message that help thy neighbor. That's one of the 10 commandments. Again, I'm not religious, but I think that is embedded in the music video in that way, helping thy neighbor. And I think that is just really awesome to send to his audience and just everyone in the world, that you should help people if you can. And number 1, my favorite single, Anyone. So this song tells a phenomenal story, again, about being in love. I I love to hear love songs, but I also don't love too many love songs when that's all you hear. I know a lot of people can probably relate. They hate sitting in the car, if they just recently went through a breakup and all they hear is love song after love song after love song. That can definitely get tiring. But anyone is different. The point of the song is what he's saying is if him and his partner do not work out, then there's no one else he wants to be with. There's no one else in the world who will be good enough for him. There's no one else in the world he thinks will fit him as perfectly as his current partner does. And I think this song actually does lead up to a climax from what I was talking about in the previous ones that I ranked. I think it has a lot of rising action, and then it has the climax, which I think is an important component of all songs, no matter what the artist is or what the song is about. So that's something I really enjoy about it, and it just kind of makes you feel good. So that's why I have that ranked at number 1. Now, I'm really looking forward to this new album because it is back in his pop dimensions. His last album, Changes, that came out on Valentine's Day of 2020, was labeled an R&B album. And don't get me wrong, I definitely love that album, and it was nice to sit back and relax and listen to that in more of a calming tone. But this pop album is going to be something that you can really dance to and feel good to. Now, Justin's tour for Changes was supposed to be last summer, but due to COVID-19, it actually ended up getting canceled. So this next tour that he has planned for this summer is actually going to, I believe, purpose both of his 2 albums, Changes and the upcoming one, Justice. Now, I think that is going to be really awesome because when I bought tickets for the Changes tour, I was thinking about it. I'm like, I don't really know if this concert is going to be one I'm on my feet and I'm dancing and I feel really good about. I was thinking of more as in I'm swaying back and forth and I'm really listening to the lyrics. Although I've only heard one official single from the album, I can already tell that Justice is going to be an album that I'm going to be screaming at the top of my lungs to. There's going to be phenomenal choreography, phenomenal backup dancers, just like the rest of his tours. So that is something that is going to be, I think, a huge part of concert life when everyone can get back to it. His Changes tour was rescheduled for this summer, and fingers crossed that it is going to actually happen and we all get to attend it. So that is something we can all knock on wood for. Now, let me just say a quick few things here if anyone still has their doubts about the Prince of Pop. Justin Bieber has actually broken more records than Elvis Presley by becoming the youngest artist to score 7 number 1 albums on the Billboard Hot Charts. That is absolutely insane. I know personally, growing up, my mom absolutely loved Elvis. He was all she talked about to me as a kid all the time when we would talk about music. She really idolized him. And I know just in general how big of a artist Elvis was to that generation of people. So the fact that Bieber could break his records, I think that's pretty amazing, and he deserves a little more credit than given sometimes. Justin is actually also the second in the world for monthly listeners on Spotify with 63.6 million monthly listeners. That is an unfathomable amount of people if you really think about it. 63.6 million. That is an absolutely insane. I can't even imagine how many people that is. If you think about it, there's 350 million people in the US, roughly. That is almost, what is that, like a tenth? Don't take my word for that. I'm not good at math. But you get my point. That is a lot of people. I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but for my Spotify Wrapped for the year 2020, I was in Justin's 0.01% for monthly listeners. So, not monthly listeners, for the year, actually. So, out of everyone that listened to him and how much they listened to him, I was in the 0.01%. So, not many other people, comparatively to 63.6 million, were listening to him as much as myself. I definitely have Bieber fever, and I've got it bad. And after 12 years, I do not think there is any cure for it. And I'm not sorry. I'm admitting it, and I'm going to hold it true. Hopefully, after listening to me, I have all given you the contagious Bieber fever as well, and maybe I've inspired you to go check out his latest single, Hold On, or any of his singles, or any of his music. Or maybe I inspired you to even get a little excited about his upcoming album, Justice, that comes out on March 19th. If I did even a tiny bit of that, I have accomplished my goals of spreading the Bieber fever that everybody wants to avoid. After the break, when we come back, we're going to talk about Machine Gun Kelly and how he has changed the music industry in the past few months, creating new things for people to listen to that aren't just songs. And don't forget, at the end of the show today, we're going to talk about Who the Blonde Girl Really Is on Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. I know everyone is wondering. It's the song that went viral, and everybody wants to know what is actually going on, what the real story is. All right, everyone, we will be right back to discuss Machine Gun Kelly. In the meantime, why don't you go smell some coffee beans to maybe cure any anxiety you have? Because I know these days I have a lot of anxiety that I have COVID-19, even though I never really leave the house anymore. So if that happens to you, go smell some coffee beans. We'll be right back in a little bit. Thank you, guys.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We just got done talking about Justin Bieber and his latest album, Justice, that is premiering soon. Also, don't forget to stick around later on to find out about the blonde girl from Olivia Rodrigo's Driver's License and everything that has to do with all those secrets. Right now, we're going to get into the pop-punk star Machine Gun Kelly. Machine Gun Kelly, a.k.a. Richard Colson Baker, actually just released a way for his fans to listen to his music and relate to it in a different way than many artists usually do. He released a musical called Down Falls High that is about 49 minutes long in the beginning of January. Before we get into what the actual musical Down Falls High is about, let me mention that Machine Gun Kelly is number 80 on the Billboard Artist charts. Now, that might seem like kind of low on the totem pole compared to the rest of the numbers, but let it be known that he has been on the charts for 52 weeks straight. So that means as an artist, he has been on there for an entire year. So even if you think that he's ranked kind of low, remember that he's stayed consistent with it. Now let's get into what Down Falls High is actually about. When I first heard that Machine Gun Kelly was making a musical out of his album, I was like, that's a little weird. I've never really heard of an artist doing that. Usually when you think of musicals, you think of a story and then the soundtracks that come with it. You usually don't think of a soundtrack and then a story. So I thought that was really interesting. And after watching it, it really changed my point of view originally. Originally, I was not too hype about it. I really didn't think I was going to enjoy it, and I thought it was going to drag on. Let me add that I watched it during my workout, and usually when I'm doing cardio, time drags on. I'm telling you, watching the musical while working out made time fly by. And in my opinion, when time flies by, that means you're really enjoying something. Now, the musical is about this lonely, edgy boy named Phoenix. Phoenix is played by the famous TikToker Lil Huddy, a.k.a. Jace Hudson. In the musical, Phoenix's friend, his only friend in school actually, dropped out and he has no friends. He's wandering around high school, the lonely boy that no one likes. He wears the baggy t-shirts. He has his nail painted. He has the little bit of a longer hair. Not really someone that is quote unquote popular. Now, one day when he's just sitting on the bleachers out at school, a girl named Scarlett, the popular girl in school, played by Sydney Sweeney, starts giving him some attention. And all her friends are like, well, why are you paying attention to that guy? He's a loser. No one likes him. And she's like, well, I think he's actually kind of cute. So they start dating and they start getting together. And eventually they fall in love. And through them falling in love, it goes, Machine Gun Kelly's songs go into out. It goes from, a short conversation between Phoenix and his girlfriend Scarlett, and then it'll jump to a scene with Machine Gun Kelly singing and playing guitar with a song that fits the situation better. And that was really interesting to me. You actually heard more music than you heard actual conversations between the characters. And personally, I like that. I really do love musicals, as I mentioned before, but I usually think there is a lot of talking and not enough singing, and I cannot say that about this musical. There was probably only about 25% talking, and then the other 75% was the actual singing. Now, as the story progresses, Scarlett and Phoenix fall in love, and eventually Scarlett gets pregnant. In the musical, it doesn't seem that she actually tells Phoenix that she's pregnant. And she kind of goes back and forth and starts acting weird. And Phoenix mentions to his best friend that she's been acting funny, and he doesn't really know what's going on. Scarlett eventually actually goes and buys Phoenix a guitar. And it's a blue guitar she gets from like a pawn shop or something like that. And she actually goes home and she gets really bright pink duct tape. And she makes the guitar basically bright pink, but with duct tape. Now, I think this is symbolic in the way that Machine Gun Kelly's album Ticket to My Downfalls is played very largely with a pink guitar in most of the music videos that he has released for it, along with a lot of the merch. So when I saw that, I really thought that this story was basically Machine Gun Kelly's story as he was in high school. Later to come find out that is not the case at all. Actually, according to NME.com, the inspiration for the musical actually came from Grease 2, which I don't blame them. Grease 2 is a phenomenal movie and a phenomenal musical, so that makes a lot of sense. But finding out that the Machine Gun Kelly's musical Downfalls High was not actually based on any true story was a little upset, because I felt like I personally very much not related to it, but I thought it was really real while watching it. Now, something that made it very real for me was a point in the musical where Scarlett was giving Phoenix the guitar she made for him because she knew how much he liked music and she really wanted him to start a band. At this point, she still hadn't mentioned to him that she was pregnant at all. And she kind of was just asking him, do you see a future with me? And kind of all those kinds of questions. And he said yes. And then she said to him, can we talk later? And he says, yeah, of course. What about? And she's like, nothing, just want to talk. And she leaves, and, he gets a call about an hour or something later that she had gotten into a car accident and she died. And in that moment, the look on his face goes completely blank. He drops the phone and is in just utter shock. And seeing that moment is what made it so raw and real for me, because that is the reality of, being a teenager sometimes. Being in high school is not all happy-go-lucky in football games that people like to act like it is. There are real tragedies and trauma that people go through, and that's what happens in the musical. And as the story goes on, he grieves and he grieves, and he decides to start a band with some of his friends like Scarlett thought he should. The band that Phoenix actually starts in the musical is called the Pink Switchblades, and that is actually symbolic from the fact that Scarlett, his girlfriend that died, actually carried around a pink switchblade in her purse. So I think that shows a lot that he dedicated the band to her, and that was one of the bigger reasons he actually started it, was to make her happy because he was so in love with her and she died. And that is kind of solidified at one point in the musical where one of his other bandmates ends up uploading their first recorded music online because other people were encouraging them to, and he did it without consulting Phoenix, who was the star of the band, basically. And when he found out about it, Phoenix was really upset. And the guy was like, why do you even care? It's like, it's doing well. What does it matter? And Phoenix was like, well, this is the first time I've sang, and you're just going to put it out there to everyone. So in my opinion, that was a way of showing that Phoenix really connected with the band and the music in a way that wasn't just a hobby. That was his way of living on for Scarlett to make her happy, because he knew how much she cared about him and how much she believed in him and his love for music and everything he could do with it. Now, as the musical goes on, the band actually ends up doing pretty well, and he gets almost, you could say, popular at school. There's some people who want to take pictures with him so they could get likes online and all that kind of stuff. And people actually start asking Phoenix questions like, why is he acting so weird? What's going on with him? And it becomes very clear and evident that he just is not dealing with the grief of losing his girlfriend, which, makes sense in the show, not in the show, in the musical. He's a 16, 17-year-old kid. He doesn't have the tools to handle losing the love of his life at such a young age. And he's not used to the fact that, unfortunately, when someone dies, life goes on, right? It doesn't stop. It may feel like the world stops in that moment when you find out, but life does go on. And if you don't decide to grieve properly and everyone else is moving on, you start to get angry. And I think that is portrayed very well in the musical. There's actually one point in the musical, there's a very symbolic scene where it's cutting to Machine Gun Kelly singing, and he's on the operating table. And he is having his heart taken out while he sings along to the song Nothing Inside by Ian Dior. And I think that is symbolic in the way that since Scarlett's gone, Phoenix has nothing to live for. His heart is gone. He feels so broken. And there is literally nothing left inside of him to make him go on anymore. Towards the end of the musical, one of the ending parts actually is the high school graduation, and Phoenix's name gets called to come, grab his diploma. And at first, nothing happens, and the person at the podium actually says his name again. And then you see Phoenix walk on stage, no cap and gown, just regular clothing. He accepts the diploma, kind of looks at the other guy holding his diploma at first, and just gives him this weird kind of look. Doesn't really shake his hand or anything like that. Doesn't have a smile on his face. And then he turns to the crowd and he pulls a Van Gogh moment and cuts off his ear. Yes, you heard me correctly. He cut off his ear with the pink switchblade that was in Scarlett's purse and that he named his band after. Watching this, I was really confused. Now, if there was a symbolic part to it, I don't get it at all. I did not get it then, and I don't know if I ever will get it. I'm not really sure what cutting off the ear could have meant. I think it possibly might have been his way of saying that he is in a lot of pain from losing his girlfriend and he hasn't moved on, even with all the success that was coming from his band online and in school and his music. It meant nothing to him without having the love of his life by his side. And that was something that shows a lot of raw reality, if that was what it was kind of getting at. Although, knowing Machine Gun Kelly and how much he loves gore, I think it also might have just been a place in the musical to cut off an ear to kind of just show some gross stuff. That is a large possibility as well. Hopefully, they kind of go scene by scene maybe and explain some of the things in there that just don't make a lot of sense. Because up until then, I thought the musical was going, pretty well as far as things that added up and things that made sense when it came to the plot of the story with Phoenix and his friends and his girlfriend. But, cutting off the ear like Van Gogh really threw me through a loop that I was just like, what am I watching right now? But I would still give the musical a 10 out of 10, even with that gory scene. I personally think that Chase Hudson, Lil Huddy, TikTok star, he embodied the role very well. I mean, the role was this edgy teenager, long black hair who wears, darker clothing and ripped jeans, paints his nails, wears studded jewelry, stuff like that. And I think that is very in touch with his actual personality. You'll see a lot on TikTok that he paints his nails, and he is more of an edgy person. So I think he did that role very, very well. I really think this musical was a good way for Machine Gun Kelly's fans to look at his music or just music in general in a different light. When artists release songs, usually, they release a single and then they drop the music video not too long after, or they'll release the music video and the single at the same time. And all music videos do tell stories. Or I shouldn't say all. Most of them usually tell some kind of story. Sometimes it's just a lyric video, or sometimes it's, just dancing, and it doesn't always have to be a story. But this was a musical, so it did tell a story. And I think that is a very intelligent way of saying what the album represents. In a story with Machine Gun Kelly, where he was interviewed with NME.com, he says that he wanted it to be a coming of age story. And that is a lot of what the musical portrayed. It had the kid in high school who, didn't have a lot of friends, who was reserved, but starts dating somebody and he falls in love and he gets happy. And then he gets heartbroken. And it doesn't matter that it wasn't just heartbroken because, girl of his dreams broke up with him. It was heartbroken in the way that he lost somebody he loved. And that is a coming of age story because people lose people they love all the time. It happens on the daily, and it's just a part of life, unfortunately. So I think the fact that we got to see that through his music, side by side with music simultaneously while watching the story, really kind of put things in perspective with the album, and that he is telling a story. It may not be his story like he stated before, but he was telling a story. At the end of the day, telling a story is such an important component of entertainment, no matter how it's done. And it doesn't matter if 5 different people watch the same story and have 5 different stories. It's the fact that they understood a story. It doesn't have to be the story the producers meant, whether it be TV, film, whatever it is. It's connecting with an audience in any way, shape, or form that is very important. And that's what Downfalls High does. We come back from the break, everybody, we're going to talk about the Grammys and how stars are actually boycotting the event from now and future to come. And don't forget to stick around later on to find out about Driver's License and what the singer really meant when she was writing the song.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, folks, let's get into music's biggest night of the year and personally my favorite award show growing up, the Grammys. This Sunday, March 14th, the 63rd annual Grammys, hosted by Trevor Noah, will be premiering on CBS. Even though this year's Grammys are a little different compared to any other due to COVID-19, there will be no live audience, but there will still be some performances by artists like Bad Bunny, Cardi B, BTS, Billie Eilish, Harry Styles, Taylor Swift, Post Malone, Roddy Ricch, and many other talented people that I know everyone is going to look forward to seeing, even though it can't be done in front of a live audience. Before we get into the reason that artists are boycotting the Grammys as of late, let me tell you guys a few of the categories and nominations for the Grammys this year. So for Album of the Year, we have Chilombo by Jhené Aiko. I probably just botched that album name, and I am so sorry to anyone who actually knows how to pronounce it. Then we have Black Pumas Deluxe Edition by the Black Pumas, Everyday Life by Coldplay, De Jesse Volume 3 by Jacob Collier, Women in Music Part 3 by Haim, Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa. Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone, one of my favorites, I might add. And last but not least, Folklore by Taylor Swift. Unfortunately, I do not know the majority of these albums on that list, which is very surprising. I usually know a decent amount of music. So all I can say is I think either Post Malone or Taylor Swift is going to take home. And I say that because I really enjoyed Hollywood's Bleeding by Post Malone. I think there was a lot of hit singles off the album that I heard in a lot of popular places. And I think a lot of what comes with winning Grammys is how popular a song is and how much recognition it gets other than just, online. If it's played in multiple places like stores and restaurants, I think that shows a lot about the popularity of it and how much people actually liked it, in my personal opinion. And then Folklore by Taylor Swift, I think that was a real coming of age album for Taylor Swift. I know she actually is 31 now, so she came of age quite a while ago, but I think this album was a lot more mature in a different way than any of her other albums. She really slowed things down a lot than her usual pop albums like 1989 and Red and Love Story and all those kinds of things. So I think that's another reason she might take home. And then we have Song of the Year. For these nominees, we have Black Parade by Beyonce, The Box by Roddy Ricch, love that song, Cardigan by Taylor Swift, Circles by Post Malone. I saw him perform that actually on the 2020 New Year's Eve party in Times Square, New York, and that is something I will never forget, so I hope he wins for that reason. Then we have Don't Start Now by Dua Lipa, Everything I Wanted by Billie Eilish, I Can't Breathe by her, and If the World Was Ending, J.P. Sachs featuring Julia Michaels. Now, for Song of the Year, I really think Billie Eilish might win this one, and I think that because she won almost every category she was nominated for in last year's Grammys, and she's basically been on the same path as she was the year previous, going up to the 2020 Grammys. So I really think she's going to win that nomination. And if she doesn't, I would say either Post Malone or Taylor Swift. And then let's talk about the best pop vocal album, my favorite category because I love pop music. We have Changes by no one other than Justin Bieber himself, Chromatica by Lady Gaga, Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa, Fine Line by Harry Styles, and then again, Folklore by Taylor Swift. Now, something I am going to preface this with is, as much as I want Justin Bieber to win this category for his album because he is my favorite and I love the album so much, he was actually very upset that the album got labeled as a pop album instead of an R&B. So I feel like personally, if he won, considering it wasn't in the category he wanted, he would not be that happy. But I won't be disappointed if he wins. I'm going to say either Changes by Justin Bieber, Folklore by Taylor Swift, or Fine Line by Harry Styles is going to take home. I don't per se really see Chromatica by Lady Gaga winning just because I don't think the album had that much popularity as far as the album went. I think Lady Gaga has had a lot of popularity since she started and that's never ended. But since the album got released, I have not seen a lot about the actual songs themselves. So that's why I don't really see her winning. But from what I've learned over the years is you don't always know what is going to happen. So, we could always be in for a surprise. Now, as much as I am looking forward to the Grammys this Sunday, because I've always enjoyed seeing the artists I love the most be rewarded for all of their accomplishments, over the past few years, my excitement has been tainted by artists coming forward and almost boycotting the Grammys because it is just not an event they want to be associated with anymore because of the unfair and unexclusive part of the decision-making when it comes to nominees and winning. Former One Direction member Zayn Malik actually took to Twitter recently to say that the Grammys need to be more inclusive, and if you're not willing to shake hands and send gifts, you will not get nominated. And that is something that after the recent years, I've heard different versions of that, and I really do believe. Something I found out recently is that the Grammy and the nominations are created based on members of a recording academy. They make decisions on who's going to get nominated and who's going to win based on a large set of criteria. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but unlike other award shows like, the American Music Awards or the Video Music Awards, those are all usually based on public voting and how many record sales or song downloads that artists get. So it makes a lot of sense for Zayn to come out and say that if you're not willing to shake hands or send gifts or basically kiss up to people, then you're not going to win anything. I think that is very upsetting to hear, just because growing up, I've always deeply admired the Grammys, like I mentioned earlier, because I really do love music. And I think it is awesome for artists who have worked really hard and put on hours after hours after hours of work in to basically not receive anything. And that is coming from the fact that One Direction, when they were a band, they never won a Grammy whatsoever. And they put in thousands of hours of work between world tours and songs and albums and working, and they never even won a Grammy. So I think that is, in my opinion, absolutely ridiculous. I'm kind of perfect generation for One Direction. One Direction kind of got big when I was in middle school, and that was that huge tweeny bop era. That was the music we all wanted to listen to and fantasize about. And, all the girls were in love with one of the boys of One Direction, and everyone had their favorite. And their music was absolutely everywhere at the time. In every store you walked into, in every restaurant, every karaoke place, one of their songs were playing at almost all times. They even had a documentary made. And in my opinion, if you get a documentary made about you and you're a musician, you made it. So the fact that they never won a Grammy, I think, does say a lot. I don't particularly understand the Grammy award process that much, but it's really something that I think is going downhill as far as what getting a Grammy actually means at this point. Another artist that actually came out recently to say that he is boycotting the Grammys from now and the future on in any of his music regarding Grammy consideration is The Weeknd. He was actually not nominated for any Grammys this year at all, which is completely shocking to me. He has actually been on the Billboard Artist chart for 295 weeks straight. That is almost 3 years of straight staying on the charts. And another thing is, he actually performed at the halftime show for the Super Bowl this year. Personally, I think if you perform at a halftime show for the Super Bowl, you deserve a Grammy nomination, at least one, no matter what it is. I mean, come on. So I think that says a lot about what the process is actually turning into as of late. There's actually been numerous artists in the past that have said that award shows they don't even bother attending anymore or looking at as a sign of an accomplishment with their music. One of those actually being my favorite, Justin Bieber, actually stated a few years ago that he doesn't even like to go to award shows anymore because he doesn't feel like he's being rewarded. It feels very staged and that he's being scrutinized for every move he does. So I think that's a very interesting statement when the whole point of the reward of award shows is to show, this person did this great thing with music. He sold this many albums. He did X, Y, and Z. But artists don't even feel like that anymore. And I think that is an example, or just one example, how a lot of things in the world are turning into you got to kiss someone's butt to get what you want. And I think that is very unfortunate because there are so many talented artists out there that, in my opinion, really deserve nominations and they deserve awards for their accomplishments and all the great things they have done. Look at The Weeknd, for example. Like I stated before, he's been on the Billboard Artist 100 chart for almost 3 years straight consistently. And he doesn't even have a nomination in any category. Not even just one simple song has a nomination. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. When The Weeknd took to Twitter to talk about the Grammys, he actually used the word corrupt. Now, when I think about the word corrupt, I think about almost a terrorist-like institution. So the fact that The Weeknd is calling the Grammy administration corrupt means I think he knows a lot more about what goes down behind the scenes than a lot of fans do. My own personal quarrels with the Grammys as of late that I've found out about is independent artists do not get considered for Grammy nominations at all. And that is just so ridiculous and is very not inclusive, like The Weeknd and Zayn Malik and many other artists have stated. Just because you're not signed with a huge record label does not mean you don't have any talent and you don't deserve to have a Grammy nomination. The Grammys are supposed to be this huge prestigious award that means that you have great talent and you've put out great records and done all these great things for the musical industry, but they're not acknowledging independent artists who sometimes are breaking so many barriers when it comes to music as of late. The way I see it, if you can make music that is reaching hundreds of thousands and millions of people and getting millions of streams and downloads on the daily, then you deserve a nomination. So I don't really understand why there is so much politics going on in music. There's actually this lyric from the movie Camp Rock 2, actually, that premiered on the Disney Channel, I think in back 2008 or 9. The song called We Can't Back Down. One of the lyrics is music should be undivided, united. And what the Grammy process is doing as of late is dividing music, saying, if you don't have a huge signing with a huge record label, then you don't deserve a nomination. And it doesn't matter that, you have 295 consistent weeks on one of the biggest charts in the music industry. We're not going to give you for any nominations. And it also doesn't matter that you performed at the Super Bowl halftime show, America's almost favorite sport besides baseball. None of that stuff matters because, well, our administrative team didn't receive a gift basket from you. So it's just really upsetting considered that I idolized the Grammys so much growing up. I always dreamed of seeing my favorite artist who hadn't won any awards yet win an award. So the fact that as I'm getting older, my favorite artists are almost boycotting the Grammys, not almost, they are boycotting the Grammys and all these secrets that the industry itself doesn't have the prestige that it used to be is really upsetting, not only for myself, but everyone involved in the music industry, in my opinion. Even with everything that was just said, I am still probably going to tune into the Grammys this Sunday just so I can see exactly who wins, if I agree with the winnings, and just to see how the show goes in general without an audience due to COVID-19. All right, guys, I think it is time for all of us to go take a quick bathroom break, grab a snack maybe, and when we come back, it is finally going to be time to talk about the infamous blonde girl on Olivia Rodrigo's driver's license. I know we are all dying to know. I know, especially myself. It is a song that went viral and caused up such a stir on TikTok. We'll be right back, guys.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
back, everyone. We just got done talking about the 63rd annual Grammys that is going on this Sunday, and the time has finally come. You're all finally going to find out who the blonde girl is on Olivia Rodrigo's famous song that has gone viral on every platform known to man in the past few weeks, Driver's License. Those of you who don't know, Olivia Rodrigo is actually a Disney actress that premieres in the Disney series High School Musical, the series, not to be confused with High School Musical, the movies, two very different things. And I say that with a lot of passion because High School Musical movies are some of my favorite childhood movies and just favorite movies to this day. So I'm very defensive when people get the two confused. Famous 18-year-old dropped the hit on January 8th of this year. And not soon after releasing the song, it went absolutely viral all over social media, TikTok in particularly. She has not just one, she has multiple favorite lines on there. One of them being, "With that blonde girl." And that line got all kinds of speculating rumors that threw people through a roof trying to understand who was the song really about, and is she really menacing against this blonde girl? Is she really holding a huge grudge? And especially is she holding a huge grudge against her ex-boyfriend? Now, in real life, outside of the show, Olivia Rodrigo was dating her co-star, or rumored to be dating her co-star, I should say, Joshua Bassett at one time. And it was rumored that they broke up sometime last summer. And when Olivia released the song, people started speculating that the blonde girl was actually about Sabrina Carpenter, Joshua's current girlfriend. And people were speculating that because, one, she's blonde, and another part of the song in Driver's License is Olivia says, "She's so much older than me." And Sabrina is a few years older than Olivia, not so much older. I think maybe it's 2 or 3 years. It's not a huge age gap. But people immediately off the bat believe that Olivia was taking shots at Sabrina, and it was an absolute, I don't even know what the right word for it is. It is just absolutely insane what people were doing with the song and the relationship that was going on between, I'd say, the love triangle, actually. Whole kicker to this entire saga and love triangle is not long after Olivia released her song, Sabrina Carpenter, the girl that is rumored to be the blonde girl and everyone else thinks the song is about, released the song called Skin on January 22nd. So only about 2 weeks later, she released her own song that everyone thinks is a retaliation back at Olivia. And the reason for that being, one of the lines in Sabrina's song is, "Maybe blonde was the only rhyme." That is absolutely bonkers to me, and some people believe that this is all a publicity stunt, and honestly, I'm not too really sure what to believe at this point. I am probably way more invested in this drama than I should be for many, many reasons. You gotta admit that seeing celebrities go back and forth with real life problems is just a lot more entertaining than, anyone else's problems. I think we often forget that celebrities are real people with real lives that, go through a lot of struggles like me and you do, especially when it comes to relationships and especially young people in relationships. I mean, it's universal what we all go through in some ways. So I think that is a big reason that I think some people very much ran with the story of the blonde girl. Then too, if Sabrina Carpenter really is the blonde girl behind Olivia's lyrics, I just want to add that Driver's License has done absolute numbers on the charts since it's premiered. It has spent the past 2 weeks at number 1 on the charts, and it has actually stayed on the charts for 8 weeks straight. That is absolutely incredible for somewhat more of a new artist. Now, Driver's License is not Olivia Rodrigo's first hit. She actually had a song called All I Want from the Disney series High School Musical, the series, that had over 193 million streams on Spotify. That song, I actually remember going viral on TikTok, I believe back in January of 2020. And just like Driver's License, that song is a hit as well. And Driver's License has me in the car singing at the top of my lungs, about a heartbreak song, screaming, I still love you, when I have never really been through a breakup, a real one, in my entire life. But she has me feeling like I was betrayed by the lowest of people. So she has a lot of passion in not only her voice, but in her lyrics. So I think that is one reason a lot of people, especially younger people on TikTok, have related to it. The song is an actual absolute banger, and I don't think anyone is denying that. I don't think people are as interested in how good the song is as much as how much people are interested about the blonde girl. Now, when Driver's License was originally wrote, interestingly enough, blonde girl was actually brunette girl, and the lyrics were changed before it was officially released. So that can give you a few ideas of why it was changed. No one really knows. My personal opinion, I believe it was most likely changed because Olivia was expressing her lyrics in a certain way towards a certain person. It might not necessarily be Sabrina Carpenter. We'll never actually know the truth because they're not really going to tell us. They don't want their lives out there on blast, and they are at such a young age, and they shouldn't have to, right? At the end of the day, unfortunately, lots of people out there don't actually care about celebrities' well-being, and I'm only 21 now, and when I was 18, which is how old Olivia is now, I could only imagine what it was like having my entire relationship out there on blast 24/7. So, I think it's really interesting that Sabrina did, have the lyrics in her song Skin that maybe blonde was the only rhyme. But the thing is, Sabrina and Olivia have both denied all rumors regarding if there's any kind of fight between the two of them. They both worked on Disney together at one point, right? They were co-workers. So there might not actually be any drama there, but a lot of people love to believe it. And also, the ex Joshua Bassett said in a few different interviews that he didn't write any of his songs about Olivia, even though one of his former albums, everyone speculated the entire album was about her. He said that it was not about her. The album was written over a long amount of time, and maybe one or two songs she comes up when singing the lyrics, or not that she comes up, she's thought about when singing the lyrics, but the entire album was not dedicated to their relationship. He also was asked which song to choose. He was on an interview, and his basic response was, all of this drama should not take away from anything either of the two young women have done, because they are both very talented and they deserve recognition for more than just drama about a boy. And I think that's a really awesome thing for him to say. I also think he might be trying to dig himself out of the gutters with maybe not one, but both girls at this point. He might have, really dug himself a deep hole he can't get himself out of at this point. But again, that's something we'll never know. I think Skin and Driver's License are both phenomenal songs. I really enjoy both of them. I do say, like I said before, I like Driver's License more. I really do find myself singing it at the top of my lungs. Like, I really have experienced heartbreak, and I really never have, not in terms of a relationship with a significant other, but it makes me feel like I have. So she's doing something right with not only her voice, but her lyrics and how she's communicating passion and feeling. Part of this whole love triangle saga that makes me lean more in the direction of this really is, kind of two girls going at it over a guy, is Sabrina's lyrics in her song Skin, where she says, hopefully one day we can just laugh about it. And that makes it sound like, one, she's kind of taking almost the higher road here, right? Like, oh, my boyfriend's ex boyfriend's ex released a song about me and how I basically stole him, quote unquote. So I'm going to be the bigger person and show the world that I really didn't do anything wrong and they should like me better. Or at least that's kind of that line kind of gives me that feeling from it. Again, that is a lot of just speculation on my part. I do think both the songs have done is given younger people a huge thing to relate to. And I think that's one of the bigger purposes of music in general, is for someone to listen to a song and relate to it. And Driver's License and Skin both have 110 million% done that, especially on TikTok, like I've stated before. People took both the songs, especially Driver's License, and would basically sing their hearts out to the song and, caption with it like, oh, how I'm feeling right now, how I feel going through my breakup, and all kinds of different thoughts regarding the topic. And even if this is all a publicity stunt, Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo have reached such a large amount of people with it, and that it is absolutely insane. And I think that shows how large of a hold that not only music has on society, but also drama has on society. Something that kind of has my mind grinding its gears almost is, if this isn't a publicity stunt, then, and they're not exactly, you could say, out to get each other, they're trying to retaliate against each other, then is this just the strangest coincidence known to man that, in Driver's License, she says, with that blonde girl, and then just 2 weeks later, the rumored blonde girl releases a song saying maybe blonde was the only rhyme. I mean, if I could interview these two, or just be a fly on the wall and what the actual meanings behind the songs and the lyrics were and who they were truly meant for, God, I can't even tell you how much money I paid for that. I am genuinely so curious at this point. I am very much hooked on all the drama. And when I found out that brunette girl got changed to blonde girl before Driver's License was originally released, at first I was really upset. I'm like, oh, that means it didn't mean anything at all. But then I thought about it and I was like, what if that was Olivia's subtle way of saying, she was left for a blonde girl, aka Sabrina Carpenter? So I'm just so curious as to where all this fits in with each other in regards to what everyone keeps calling a love triangle, and I've even called a love triangle multiple times. One day, 5-10 years from now, we're going to see some true Hollywood story regarding the two songs and the two girls. And another part of me is, almost thinking about, are we going to see any more about this, in the next coming weeks or coming months or anything? Because like I said, both girls have denied the rumors, and even, the boyfriend and ex-boyfriend, same person, have denied any kind of love triangle between the three of them. So I really want to know if this is going anywhere else. And it's so depressing that I'm so sucked into people's lives that I never meet and most likely will never meet. And I don't matter to them at all, but here I am. I really wish I could give you guys more information on the blonde girl and tell you exactly who she is. And for that, from the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry. I am dying to know the facts behind this entire situation. And hopefully one day we all will. But until then, I thank you guys so much for letting me talk your ear off about all of the blonde girl information and everything that came along with it, and all of my quirky opinions regarding that. Any of you guys are still heavily quarantining, might I suggest checking out the Prince of Pop's music, Justin Bieber. Go take a look at Machine Gun Kelly's latest musical or any of his new music, or watching the Grammys this current Sunday, March 14th. And also keep your minds going about the blonde girl, because I know it's eating me alive inside. Trust me. I want to thank you guys so much for listening to the Golden State Media Concept Music Podcast, brought to you by the Golden State Media Concept Podcast Network. I would like to ask you all to remember to subscribe to the show, write a nice review, let me know how I'm doing, let me know about any topics you guys want to hear. I'd love to help you guys out with that. Also, please go ahead, take a follow on us for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for listening. Have a great rest of your time, and remember to stay healthy.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.